Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, another day, another Julio Jones trade watch video. That's right. Today, we're going to be discussing the 5 teams. We are down to the final 5, unless there's some sort of mystery 6 team that comes in at the last minute and steals Julio. We are down to the final 5 teams that have the best odds and the best potential opportunity to trade for the legendary Falcons wide receiver. Now, if you don't know and you are living under a rock, Julio Jones has requested, well, he hasn't officially requested it, at least by this recording of this video, but he said on multiple occasions that he doesn't want to play in Atlanta anymore. He wants to be traded. So Julio Jones is probably going to be on a new team in 2021, and we're here to discuss the 5 teams that he could possibly be landing and playing for in 2021. Now, the odds are the 5 teams: number 1, the Patriots; number 2, the Titans; number 3, the Seahawks; number 4, the 49ers; and number 5, the Ravens. Those are your 5 teams that could possibly or have the best opportunity to land number 11. Now let's discuss teams other than the Patriots, because we've already talked about my thoughts on Julio Jones going to the Patriots. I would be super excited for it, and I think that it's probably going to happen. That's my pick for what team lands Julio Jones, is the Patriots, obviously, because I'm a Patriots fan. So I'm choosing the Patriots. So we're not gonna talk about the Patriots in this video. We're gonna talk about the other 4 teams, right? Yeah, other 4 teams. So let's start with the Titans. There's a lot of rumors that the Titans have jumped up to the number 1 odds to draft Julio Jones. Now, hopefully he doesn't get traded before this video goes up, because that's going to be pretty awkward. So the Titans have apparently, rumors say, have jumped up to the number 1 odds to get Julio Jones. And people are saying that it'd be a 2nd round pick for Julio. Now, I don't know if a 2nd round pick is the only thing they'd have to give up. I feel like they'd have to give up a little bit more for a guy like Julio Jones, who's very productive, gets hurt a little bit, but is still a solid Hall of Fame player. So having Julio Jones on a team with Ryan Tannehill, who's a very productive and good quarterback in the league, he's turned himself into something crazy. He's able to run the offense and perform well for Tennessee. He's done very well, in my opinion, after leaving Miami. So he's there, and he's a very good option to throw the football to Julio. Obviously, you've got the, in my opinion, future MVP in Derrick Henry. Probably should have been MVP this past season if Aaron Rodgers didn't exist. So you've got Derrick Henry, who's just an absolute monster. On the outside, you still got A.J. Brown. Team him with Julio Jones. That would be pretty good. You can't go wrong with that. That offense is pretty dynamic. I'd say that Julio Jones is obviously better than Corey Davis, who's now in New York. So having Julio Jones on the Titans, I think, makes them obviously a better team. Having Julio Jones on any one of these 5 teams makes them a better team. So I think that offense is pretty scary with Derrick Henry and Julio Jones and A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill. That's a pretty scary offense. I think that improves them to the point where they maybe go to the Super Bowl. Who knows? Moving on to the 3rd team that has odds in it, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this is a kind of a newer one. People have kind of been pushing for the Seahawks to make a trade for Julio Jones. Apparently, Russell Wilson has had discussions with Julio Jones about maybe teaming up, maybe wanting to play together. I don't know if that's 100% true. I think it's true, because a lot of reputable sources have kind of thrown it out there and discussed it. So I'm assuming that it's probably pretty true. But think of that offense with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Julio Jones, and Tyler Lockett. That's a wide receiver core and quarterback that no team wants to play. Forget about the bad offensive line. Forget about Chris Carson in the running game. Who cares about that when you got Julio Jones, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett as your receiving core? You don't need a running game. You don't need an offensive line. You just need Russell Wilson to extend the play long enough for one of those 3 fantastic wide receivers to get open. and you're going to win a bunch of football games. So, in my opinion, I'd like to see Julio go to Seattle just to see that. I think that would be pretty cool. If he doesn't go to New England, because that's obviously where I want him to go number one. But if he chooses, or if the Falcons choose to trade him somewhere else, I would prefer to see it in Seattle. Now, I'm not a big Seattle fan, but I would like to, just as a pure NFL fan and a pure sports fan, from a pure entertainment perspective, I would like to see Julio on Seattle, to see the fireworks from DK and Julio and Tyler Lockett all having an opportunity to take the top off a defense at any moment from Russell Wilson. So that would be pretty awesome. Now, moving on to the fourth team that has odds to get Julio Jones, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I'm not sure what the 49ers would have to give up to get Julio. I think it might be a couple number ones, maybe something else. I'm not sure. Going off of the Titans having to give up a second-round pick for him, maybe they have to give up a second-round pick too. I don't really know. I can't really tell what the market is for Julio, because a lot of teams have been throwing out different trade packages, and it's been a couple different things. It's been first-round picks, been second-round picks, it's been players. So you can't really get a feel for what the market is for Julio. But the 49ers, having Jimmy Garoppolo coming back for a healthy season, having all of the defense come back, adding Julio Jones to that, I think makes them the favorites in the NFC and probably the favorites in the NFL. Any of these teams, you know what? I'm gonna say it right now. Any of the teams, the 5 teams, or a random 6 team that pops up and gets Julio Jones, whoever gets Julio Jones becomes the favorite in whatever conference they're in. That's my prediction. So the 49ers having Julio Jones added to the offense, which has Jimmy Garoppolo on it, I think is pretty good, because then Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have to worry too much about having to do so much on the offense, because having Julio Jones makes it a little bit easier for a quarterback, because he's such a good weapon. So it would take some of the pressure off of Jimmy Garoppolo to make plays happen, because you've got a guy like Julio Jones, plus all the guys they already had from last season that did pretty well. And then their defense is all healthy now, so that would be a complete team. And a pretty scary team in that. So Julio Jones on the 49ers makes them Super Bowl favorites and makes them probably the best team in the NFC other than Tom Brady and Tampa. And then the fifth and final team that we're going to be discussing in today's video, the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people have been pushing for the Ravens to trade for Julio Jones, to add him to Sammy Watkins and Tylan Wallace and all their other wide receivers, Hollywood Brown. Plus they've got Lamar Jackson, obviously, and they've got Mark Andrews at tight end. That's a pretty scary offense if Julio Jones is added to that. With Sammy Watkins, who's a very solid wide receiver, pretty underrated. A lot of guys don't really talk about Sammy Watkins and the production that he's had, even in Buffalo and in Kansas City. He's had production. He's been hurt a little bit, but he's had production for most of his career, and he doesn't really get talked about a lot. So having Julio Jones added to that dynamic offense would be pretty scary. Obviously, all these teams, like I said, would be pretty scary with Julio Jones added to them, because they've already got decent offenses, but adding Julio just takes it up that next level. So Julio with Lamar Jackson would be pretty cool, because Lamar is already one of the fastest players in the league, not just at quarterback, in the league. And so him running around, extending plays, having Julio Jones as a deep threat with Hollywood Brown and with Sammy Watkins and with Mark Andrews, that's pretty scary. That is pretty scary. And that would definitely make the Ravens the favorite in the AFC over the Kansas City Chiefs and over the Buffalo Bills and all those guys if Julio is on Baltimore. Now, obviously, we've already discussed that my preferred destination for Julio is obviously the Patriots, because I am a Patriots fan. But if I had to choose without bias the team that I think Julio will get traded to, I would have to say the Titans. There's just a lot of smoke behind these Titans rumors that you just can't ignore. So I feel like the Tennessee Titans will be the team that trades for Julio Jones and ends up getting him. And if that does happen, that's pretty scary for the rest of the league. I don't know if it'll work out actually in 2021 on the field, but on paper, That is a very, very scary team and a very dynamic team and a team that probably wins the AFC and heads to the Super Bowl. I think they beat the Chiefs with Julio Jones on that team because that team is good. They've already got a good defense, and adding Julio Jones to that offense makes them probably the favorites in the AFC. So I want him to get traded to the Patriots, but I have a feeling, an unbiased opinion, that he will go to the Titans. So let me know down below what you guys think. If you guys think he'll go to the Patriots or whatever team you think he'll go to, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let me know down below in the comments. Smash that like button, notification bell, and the subscription button as well. Join the Juice Club, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!